This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices rose 2% on Monday as the Caspian Pipeline Consortium halted exports after a major drone attack and U.S.-Venezuela tensions raised concerns about supply, while OPEC Plus agreed to leave oil output levels unchanged for the first quarter of 2026. Brent crude futures advanced $1.26, or 2.02%, to $63.64 a barrel by 0953 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude gained $1.27, or 2.17%, to $59.82. The Caspian Pipeline Consortium, which carries 1% of global oil, on Saturday said it halted operations after a mooring at its Russian terminal on the Black Sea was damaged by a Ukrainian drone. Chevron, a CPC shareholder, said late on Sunday that loadings were continuing at the Russian port of Novorossiysk.
At first glance, the decision by OPEC Plus to leave oil output levels unchanged for the first quarter of next year could be viewed as confirmation the exporter group is concerned about a looming crude supply glut. It was widely expected that the 8 members of OPEC Plus undertaking voluntary oil output cuts would stick to their plan of leaving production levels unchanged for the first 3 months of next year. It was also no surprise that the group reiterated their commitment to market stability amid a steady global economic outlook and current healthy oil market fundamentals as reflected in low inventories.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Indian refiners' crude throughput rose by 6.8% month-on-month in October to 5.50 million barrels per day, 22.50 million metric tons, provisional government data showed on Monday. Refinery throughput in September was at 5.15 million barrels per day, 21.07 million metric tons. On a year-on-year basis, refinery throughput gained 5.6% in October. India's fuel consumption hit a 5-month high in October, with demand rising 7.7% from September to 20.17 million metric tons, oil ministry data showed on Friday.
U.S. oil production rose to a record high in September. Data from the Energy Information Administration, EIA, on Friday showed, despite oversupply worries, oil production in the U.S. has continued to hit record highs this year despite a weak price environment, further weighing on global prices. Benchmark Brent crude was trading just below $64 on Friday, about 14% below the same time last year. U.S. crude oil output rose 44,000 barrels per day during the month to a record 13.84 million barrels of oil per day, according to EIA data. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. The EU executive will unveil next week measures to cut the bloc's over-reliance on China for critical raw materials as Europe seeks to keep up with fierce global competition from the US and Asia. Despite years of warning signs that the old model of rules-based trade was coming to an end, accelerated by U.S. President Donald Trump's return to power, European governments have been asleep at the wheel, EU and industry officials said. Europe has become more vulnerable, also due to our dependency on third countries for our security and the supply of critical raw materials, European Central Bank Chief Christine Lagarde said last week, citing other challenges ranging from rising U.S. tariffs to stiffening competition from China.
Copper prices soared to new records on Monday as the market focused on plans by smelters in top producer China to cut output next year while a softer dollar reinforced positive sentiment, traders said. Benchmark copper on the London Metal Exchange was flat at $11,189 a metric ton at 11:18 GMT from an earlier all-time peak at $11,294.50. Prices of the metal used in the power and construction industries are up 28% so far this year. China's top copper smelters will cut production by more than 10% in 2026 to counter overcapacity in the industry that has led to increasingly distorted copper concentrate processing fees, according to a Chinese market information provider.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Ukraine's wheat harvest could rise to between 24 million and 25 million tons in 2026 from 23 million tons in 2025, Ukrainian Deputy Economy Minister Taras Vysotsky said on Monday in the first official estimate of the output. We are currently operating in the range of 24 to 25 million tons, Vysotsky told Reuters in a written comment. Ukraine is a major European wheat grower and exporter, and winter wheat dominates its production of the grain.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.